What's up, YouTube family? Today I'm in an amazing nature reserve in the middle of nowhere. It's amazing to walk around here. In fact, the river's right down there beside me the whole way. And I'm actually on my way to meet Ion, a young guy, 33 years old, who left the police force and ended up living here in the middle of the nature reserve in a little house that he's restoring. I want to absorb these stories. As you know, there's already been a lot of this content on the channel, because after losing my little dog when she was 12 and some family members, you guys who follow the channel know who I'm talking about. It's really changing my life. I'm becoming much more spiritual, not in a religious way, but by looking inside myself, being in touch with myself, and truly doing what I enjoy with my life. And I think these people have a lot to teach me. Not just me, I know many of you see yourselves reflected in them and they're fulfilling their dreams. They don't let anything from the outside affect them, and they decide to live life the way they want to live it. So I want you to pay close attention to how you feel when I introduce you to Ion, because these people sometimes have an appearance that can lead to prejudice, which we shouldn't have, but it often happens. And in this case, I want you to notice how you feel when you see him, and then after having conversations and after he shows us what his lifestyle is like, think about how you feel, if anything has changed for you. I won't go on. I'll leave my social media here as always if you want updates on content I don't post on YouTube. Let's get started. Well, I'm almost at Ion's house. In fact, he's right here. How's it going, Ion?
Very well, welcome.
What a paradise you live in, man. I was amazed on the way here by all the animals I saw and all the ones you have here. I see you're in good company. Look,
Mama cat and newborn kittens.
how cute. Look how it's hiding there. How are you, Ion? Very well. I really wanted to meet you, man, because people like you who do these things, who break away from tradition, from what's usual in society, you come here and decide to live life the way you like, man. And I want you to introduce yourself. Who is Ion? How old are you? As I said before, I think you're 33 and I wasn't wrong, right? That's right. And why did you end up here? Why did you leave the police and what circumstances led you to be here?
Well, in the end, it's a series of decisions, right? I've left the police just like I've left many other things. To be at peace, to be well, to be calm, to be able to enjoy life, and basically to become. That's why I came here, and I'm working on it and achieving it, so.
In the end, that's what we're all looking for, right? If we work, in the end, it's to look for stability, quote unquote, that allows us to fulfill ourselves, to be doing what we like. And few people think that sometimes the job they're in is itself a problem when it comes to fulfillment. Because sometimes we go to work in places where we don't want to be, and we do it as a general rule, right? Because we have to work at something and we rarely look inside ourselves, right? To say, what am I good at? What do I like? I'm going to try it, right? How was that process? You started as a police officer, and what made you change?
Well, for starters, joining the police already gave me a lot of information, right? That it wasn't a place for me because I kind of went into it feeling pressured, let's say. It wasn't something that came naturally to me, you know? I never dreamed of being a police officer or felt excited about it. So that already gave me a clue to realize that it wasn't going to be something that would have a positive impact on my life. And then, as time went by, I realized that it wasn't the right place, you know? That the people who were there had beliefs, expectations, and desires that I didn't have. I didn't fit in with all of that. Having money at the end of the month didn't give me much satisfaction. It might have given me some peace of mind, but it didn't really satisfy me. It wasn't my dream. So, well, I started realizing that there were more things that separated me from that than things that connected me to it. And in the end, little by little, you start realizing that you're not comfortable. And
And you decide to change, right?
yes, but it's a matter of knowing how to listen to yourself. I think the key to all this is knowing how to listen to yourself and being true to what you hear, because I think a lot of people know it's not natural, right? The conventional way people live. but maybe they're not even able to realize why they're doing it.
I hear that a lot now that you mention it, because when I walk through big towns and cities, I see how people complain about the kind of life, about misfortunes, about how hard life is, about dissatisfaction, right? They complain, but few people actually make the change, and those who dare to do it, like you, end up being criticized, right? Because it's like they get out of the rat race, as I call it, out of the system, that fear, and it's up to me, I'm going to give you everything so that you're okay. And as a result of visiting abandoned villages, I've met wonderful people like you who are able to transcend their beliefs, their way of seeing that traditional life, and see it differently, more in touch with nature. And I've decided to change the videos a little to go in this direction too, because I know people are connecting with it. These are videos that get a lot of views, and deep down it's because everyone watching this video is here for a reason. Because there's something in their internet algorithm that makes them say, hey man, maybe a change in your life wouldn't be so bad, right?
Of course, I think everyone longs to be at peace. I mean, the thing is that you can realize that your body is asking for it, that your mind is asking for it, or that something beyond is asking for it, but who doesn't want to be at peace? Being at peace is like the first step toward happiness. You can have a moment of happiness, a brief moment of happiness from something. Or, now that dopamine is very trendy, something fleeting that makes you feel things very intensely, but then that feeling disappears. Happiness in the end is a much longer lasting state, and to reach that, you first have to be at peace. And to be at peace, you first have to know what gives you peace. So I'm the kind of person who looks for that, right? When you asked me who is John, lately I always feel like I'm the person who looks within myself. Within, from my perspective, what is it that makes me feel calm? And I'm the person who makes that happen, who makes the decisions. So I think the key is the direction you choose to go, right? And that's why I think people are becoming more aware of this or are more drawn to this kind of content. Because we're at a point where we've already realized, right? Most people have realized that what gives us peace is being calm. Probably being in some way in contact with nature. Um, Not having conflicts that humanity has invented, right? Like having to make more money every month, having more things, right? Those are things we've made up.
Have less to have more of yourself, right? That's the conclusion I draw from this.
That's it.
In order to maintain all the material things we have to invest a lot of our life working to earn money, which in the end is our energy, our time turned into paper, so that, well, we can develop ourselves. In the end, maybe we only have 2 days a week to be able to say, I'm at peace, I'm going to unplug and go out into nature, right? It's not incompatible, even if people see you as the yogi type who lives off nothing. Of course, it's not incompatible. You've decided to work at what you like, right? Yes, you have your earnings.
Yes, of course. You caught me dressed because I knew you were coming, otherwise I'd be naked. That's when, of course, I mean, in the end, you have to dress your character somehow, right? So I say, at this moment, when I decide someone is coming to visit, it's like, well, I have to somehow make them feel comfortable. I have to put some clothes on. And what clothes do I put on? Well, the first ones I grab, the ones that make me feel comfortable in this case, with this hot weather, just being comfortable, something I can get dirty. Clothes I'm not afraid to stain, right? For me, these decisions help me understand myself better. Even choosing what to wear each day matters. That's why I'd love to be naked all day. You only focus on who you are. This is who I am. So of course I work. A lot of people ask me, like, oh, you must have inherited something, or you must have this or that, or I wouldn't mind. I mean, if I got some clean money, some money, right? Money that was honestly earned back then just falls into my lap now, and they say, here, 100,000 euros. Well, I would keep doing what I do. I would keep working at my job. I would keep going out to teach my yoga classes, my workshops, my retreats, my voice classes too, my therapy sessions, which is basically everything I do. I would keep doing it because there's really something in me that grows every time I do it. Because I discover a little more about myself in every session I do for others. I see people who reflect my own issues back to me, and it's a constant joy to keep getting to know myself and to keep seeing. Where things get stirred up for me, what makes me uneasy, what I like, what I want to focus my attention, what I want to work on, what I don't, what triggers a strong aversion in me. Sometimes even hatred gets triggered, and I ask myself, oh, why? For me, All of that is a joy. So that's why I work, not just to make a living. Luckily, I'm at a point where I do the work I want to do, I do what I like, and sometimes I even work from home doing my workshops and my online stuff, but it's really because I want to, you know? And that also means that it also serves as a way to support myself and make some money. So I can feed the animals that keep arriving more and more. And I can buy them their tasty canned food, and if I want, I can also start a garden, buy myself a medicinal plant so I can keep growing it. Just a quick note about that judgment because I think it too when I look at myself. Medicinal plant for me is not marijuana.
All right, okay.
I don't smoke.
I know, but I want to clarify that when someone criticizes or judges, they're really revealing more about themselves than about the person they don't know and are judging based on appearance or something in this video, right? In the end, you see here, I mean, you have the internet, you can work remotely, which is what I often say. And not only that, I mean, you can stay in touch because I imagine you can travel to see your parents whenever you want. You're isolated, but it's not that extreme, right? Because there are a lot of people who get scared, like, I would never go live there, not in a million years, alone. It's a risk. What do you have to say about being in nature, about the risks that might be here? You're about to show us everything now so everyone can relax since people just want to see your house.
To get out of here, to go beyond.
Yes, 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 don't worry, we're going right now. But anyway, what do you think about the issue of insecurity in these places or how hard life is here?
For me, there's nothing harder than not pursuing what really makes you happy. I mean, I don't think there's anything tougher than that. Not in nature, not in living conditions, not even when nature gets rough and wild. There's nothing harder or more dangerous than actually doing something you don't like. And it might sound kind of, but for me, that's just reality. I mean, I'm realizing more and more that when I'm doing something I don't like, or when I'm working for someone else just to please them, or even in relationships, you know, just to make the other person happy. If you're not doing what you truly enjoy and feel passionate about, life becomes very hard, very draining, and suddenly you value the weekend a lot because that's when you stop doing all of that. How can it be that you value 2 days off more, right? Or 1 day off for people who are less fortunate, or even just a little free time for those who work all week? That this is your moment of happiness and that the rest of the week is suffering. Damn, no. For me, that's really hard to hear, you know? So for me, there's nothing harder than that. So is this hard? Yes. Is it rough? Yes. Is it wild? Absolutely. You can't even imagine the things that happen here. But that's life. That's where humanity really comes from, right? So, damn, I have my refuge, I have my home, I have my company, I have my parents who I can still go visit even now.
You have everything you need. I see it every time I come here because you can't show everything in a video. But I encourage you to meet people like this, to let go of your prejudices, to, damn, open your mind a little, to really get to know and truly open your mind, to get to know different perspectives on life. Because in the end, they're just beliefs. We all have beliefs. And in the end, we have to go with the ones that make us happiest, right? Not just saying, no, I'm happy here and want this life, because that's not it. True happiness comes from being in contact with nature. In fact, there are many studies that already show this, that being in contact with nature for a few minutes a day heals you. How about you show me more of the area around the house and we continue discussing some interesting topics?
Let's go in, I'll show you around and maybe make you coffee.
All right, let's go over there.
Welcome.
Wow, that space is huge, huh?
It is big, yeah.
This is only one part of the house, right?
This is like a tenth of the house. I mean, where I live. About a tenth or so of the whole farmstead.
Because this farmstead, what was it before? Was it a shepherd's farm or what?
Of course, it has gone through many stages, and originally it was an ironworks. It was a place where minerals were extracted. There were mines around here. Well, there still are. So the work of extracting minerals was done here. In fact, there's a lot of slag down there, which is like the leftover from the stones after you remove the mineral. And then, well, the minerals were transported to the towns. So the miners lived here. They had their workplaces, their workshops, yes.
This place must have quite a history, huh?
1415.
Does this place date back to 1415?
Just imagine how much time has passed, how many things, how many stories. So of course that was back then. Then a Marquis bought it, then ba 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 ba, and a lot has happened here. There's been a lot of history.
Impressive, and it ended up being yours.
Now it's me taking care of it.
That's great. How was it? Because what most people ask me when they want to make a life change like this is, okay, how do I move to a place like that? How do I find a place like this where they'd be willing to sell me the house? Is it easy or difficult? What was your experience?
Of course, in my case, a lot of things lined up. I mean, a lot of things happened that suddenly led me here, you know? When I arrived at the house, I immediately thought, this is it. Something clicked, and I felt really comfortable.
Is this why everyone who's into this always tells me the same thing? Of course, that you've made a leap. Why? I mean, do you really feel that strongly that this is your place? It really impresses me because, yes, it's just, no, listen, I have it too. Let me record myself. I have it too. I don't know if you can see it there because really, let's see. How can I explain it to you? Every time I go to record people who have made the change, it's something they always tell me, and I say, wow, someday I'd love to feel something like that, you know? And so, I mean, do you feel it so strongly that you can say, this is my new home?
It's really strong. Just to give you an idea, the image I saw which made her cry. She was just a friend and we weren't together anymore, but she was going to move in here. The same image we saw, she burst into tears over Zoom. And my whole body felt kind of open. And it was like right here, and it was when we came in through the door. You'll see later that the outside is still very damaged. There's still a lot of work to do. It's still like a dumping ground. We came in and saw the dumping ground, which was worse than now, and a stuffed alligator hanging here. The first thing you noticed was death and destruction. Well, at that moment when I stepped into the house right here, and of course I was observing myself from the outside, and I said, how can I be so drawn to seeing a situation like this, right? Something that's almost bringing someone a traumatic moment, a moment of anxiety, like, damn, what is this? What kind of dump is this? What a messed up situation.
You were able to see beyond that, you mean?
And for me, suddenly everything stopped and all the mental clutter cleared away. Like imagining it empty, imagining that my space was going to be here on the right, where we are now, and that it really had everything to be my home for the next few years. So it feels very powerful. It's something really very powerful. Even getting here, you realize there are things you couldn't have achieved even if you tried.
It's happening to me with the channel. There are many things I don't talk about because, well, I'll gradually take the channel in a slightly different direction. I'll open up a little more about who I am.
Yes, little by little.
The part of me that you don't know, you know the nice part. And in the end, that's what I say, that people who criticize or talk about you, they're really talking more about themselves, about how nice they are. Because if they see you as nice, it's because they're nice. And if they see you as bad, it's because they're projecting the worst of themselves onto you. And in the end, that's it. I want to share a little bit of myself. And with time, when I'm feeling a little better about what's happening to me, I want to be able to talk, because if not, I'd be crying on camera all the time, because it's something very deep that I carry inside. As I mentioned, that's why I want to meet people like you, because you're an example. In fact, I'm here with this one who's being so affectionate. He's being so affectionate, it reminds me of mine. Ha ha. Can you briefly explain what you've done here and how everything is organized?
Of course, well, this is the living room and kitchen, which is something very typical in the Basque country, which is where we are, because family life always happened in the dining room, always around food, right? So, well, this table was already here. I restored it, and over there where Cambia is, which is
The other little dog you have here?
along with the dog, yes, that's a rocket stove that I made, together with a colleague who's no longer around here, which is a fireplace that makes use of all the heat. It has secondary combustion.
How does it work? Please explain. I've never seen one.
This is amazing.
How does it work? Because I see a metal drum here, right?
Yes, yes,
A type of stove which I think was used to make fires in the past.
that's right.
How does this work now? Please explain it to me.
Well, I'll tell you because, I mean, this seems amazing to me. When I discovered it, it changed me from being here really messed up from the cold to being pretty much in heaven. I mean, really enjoying winter. It's a fireplace with a double combustion chamber. You have it here, you open the door and make the fire there, and there's a tower of refractory bricks that goes all the way up and creates a vortex of fire at the top, okay? And all the soot, all the ashes, and all the particles that would normally go straight up in a regular fireplace start burning there.
Of course, heat loss.
Significant heat loss occurred, especially with an open fireplace. Just think about all the lost heat and the firewood consumed. So here, with a very small amount of fire, with a couple of big logs, you heat everything. Secondary combustion happens there, and the smoke passes through here. And it follows this path, right? It follows the entire path. So what happens? All this, which is...
Does it also get hot?
Yes, yes, of course, of course. All of this is adobe made with the pony's manure, straw from around here, sand from here, and clay from here. So everything here is covered, and underneath it has the fire brick. So all that smoke that passes through there while it's hot leaves the warmth all over the surface, and it collects so much that it stays warm all day.
So that's why they keep their bed here, huh?
They already know that's the spot.
You picked that spot for your bed? Perfect.
Well, and then also the pony's manure has a bit of a taste to it.
Of course.
They also like to lick it a little bit.
Well, but it's very well built, huh?
Yeah, well, it's got its little things and all that. I'm still learning Adobe. I'm just starting to get the hang of it now, but you really have to put a lot of care into it for it to turn out well. But honestly, it's amazing how much heat it generates, and being able to be here in the winter reading a book, or I don't care, doing nothing, or just on my phone. It's amazing here because your butt stays warm. All of this is giving off heat all the time, and on top of that, you use very little firewood.
And did you acquire this as property, or how does it work? Can you buy this type of house here? Because you see, people are going to keep asking me about this, so you can clarify it for them.
Of course, right here where I live, it's very unusual because there are very few houses. There is actually one that's for sale at the moment, but here where we live, there are only 4 houses in the whole valley. So it's complicated here. That's also why, for me, having made it here is a gift and a sign that I was the one who was meant to be here for everything, you know? Due to all the dealings with the owners and everything else. What I have is a maintenance contract. I made a contract with them for, of course, when I got here, everything was dark, death, destruction, just imagine.
Yeah, I can imagine, yes.
There was a stuffed caiman. Imagine what else was here, right?
Yes, the people who watch my videos know what condition the houses are in when I find them, so they can perfectly imagine what you've managed to create here, a home. You see, the door is also the original one, made of wood. I mean, you've wanted to keep the essence of everything you could salvage. You've made the most of it, right?
I made the most of everything I salvaged.
This is amazing, huh? The furniture and how you arranged it reminds me of the village. The village, the way life used to be from many years ago with the old sink.
Yes, yes, yes.
See, it doesn't have any luxuries either. You just reuse what you can. And well, you also have over here, I can see the TV.
Yes, the TV doesn't work now, but it's still there and used to work.
I imagine that instead of watching TV here, you go outside to see the show nature puts on, which is different every day.
Yes, yes, here, I mean, I have that habit of, oh, I want to watch some movie or something, so since I get signal, I just use my phone as a hotspot and get on my computer. Now, if I feel like watching a certain series, I just put it on. I mean, I don't give up on worldly pleasures either, you know? This thing about, oh, that's something with a lot of belief and substance, of course, but as humans, sometimes we need that too, right? And many times when you don't want to work on certain things or move forward in a certain process, what you have left is to be calm, to be at peace, just to be. Well, in this case, maybe wasting time watching TV. Right? For me, I always try to make the most of it and get something out of it. Usually I watch documentaries or maybe one of your videos. I can watch someone talking to me about things like yoga, which interests me, or about philosophy, or I don't know, but it seems like that's just as valid as sitting here reading a book and enjoying it, right? I mean, I don't deny that as a human being I have my contradictions too, right? Because damn, in the end you come to the forest, right? Many people might say, wow, you go to the forest and still have a TV or computer. Like it's my life.
Yeah, but well, in the end,
Of course. And in my life, if I feel like watching a documentary, I want to be able to watch it. Or whatever, even the most ridiculous movie in the world, I want to be able to watch that too.
you're not Buddha. You didn't just come here simply to exist. You want to be at peace. I think that I at least have understood the message well, and I think people have too. Because at least I know my community is really good in this regard. They're very open-minded. But well, I know new people are going to watch the video. And yes, that's what we want, for people to be clear that there are many videos leading up to this one, that if they want to take a look at what I'm showing and understand the message a bit more deeply, because it's not just you, there are very young people, very old people also doing these things. And in the end, people who have gone through very difficult things in their lives, which I know you have too. And in the end, getting out of your comfort zone is not easy, and it's already a process in itself. I mean, I would encourage everyone to dare to do what you are doing, because I think this is where you can really do it. At least even if it's temporary, there are a lot of people who need it temporarily. And then, well, they go on to where they really want to go in their life, but they should try it, because I think many of them wouldn't leave.
Of course, and I think that when I share on social media that I'm a person who lives in the forest, people imagine you like there in a cave, living off the air, growing your own carrots. And it's like, yes, there's a part of that, of course, but I don't turn my back on where I come from either. I'm a person who likes sports. For example, if I have to go to the city once a week to do a certain sport,
You go?
well, I go and do it. What's the problem? For me, it's not inconsistent in that sense. What I wanted was for my home to be a peaceful place, a place without noise, with a beautiful soundtrack.
Well, you've achieved it, haven't you?
Yes, now let's listen a bit to the songs that are out there. But that doesn't mean I'm not someone you might see in the city or see going to a concert, because I like that too, you know? It's true that I've spent almost 3 years in solitude, hardly going out, working a lot in the garden, doing a lot of things that are supposed to be part of country life and all that. And that's what I needed at that time. And over time, that has changed. And now there's a moment when maybe for me, spending 10 hours a week in the garden just to get a lettuce, if my neighbor has already done it, has more time, is dedicated, and does it better, it makes no sense for me to do it. I just buy it from him. So I think that with this whole thing about living in the forest or living free or living in a way that aligns with your values, people are getting so radical, like saying if you live in the forest, you can't have a car. At what point did we set that rule?
I think it's criticism just to criticize, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I understand the reason. Because it happens to me too. And I'm here and I say, damn, I'm here and I'm going out to buy lettuce at the Nekasar, well, at the village gardener. Like, yeah, because during that time you'd have spent growing lettuce. Instead of doing that, you're designing a course, you're creating a retreat because that's your purpose.
Like them, in the city, there are people who go to work and don't produce their own food, and they go to work to buy their food. In the end, it's basically the same because you could do it yourself, so why do you go to work for? In the end, it's really like that. They're also going to ask me a lot about food, like where do you get your food from? And about electricity and water. How about you show me a little bit? I don't know, for example, let's start with water.
That sounds wonderful to me.
And you tell me where you get it from and how everything works a little bit.
I promised you a coffee and I just realized now that to make the milk,
We'll have it later.
yes, yes, but to make the milk I need water and the water is at the spring, so let's go to the spring.
All right, come on, let's go over there.
Let's go over there. All right, we're already getting to the water here. And of course, now we're crossing like this because I've crossed many times already. Talking a bit earlier about how hard things are and all that, well, at first everything is much harder until you start making your own way. And for me, this is like a symbol of that, you know? It's like a path that's already open and I just have to move a few things aside. But at the beginning, it was all weeds, it was all brambles.
Of course, to find the place and everything, yes.
And now what I've done here is bring the water. This pipe comes from hundreds of meters away, from up there, from an underground spring. Because the water at home comes from the river, it's filtered, it's separated, sedimented, but there's nothing like this water, which is spring water. When you fill the bottle, you see pure love. You look at the water and wonder how it can be so clear and full of life. You see it, right? Living water.
Yes, a lot of people tell me that the water from some places, they've told me this in several towns I've visited. They say, Alvaro, this water has something. And people have always talked about medicinal waters, those waters that, well, in the end heal, right? Like, so to speak, they don't have any additives like the ones that are added to.
If in the end we're 70% water, right? Some say 60, 70, 80. It depends on who you ask, but a big part of us is water. So damn, let's see how we nourish that water we have, right? All right, we have the first part for the coffee, which is the water.
That's cool.
All right, now we have to prepare the milk. So you need a bit of electricity. To get electricity, you have to earn it. And in this case, here we have the filter, which is where the water starts to come in, filling a tank that then moves the turbine. So let's take a look and see how it is.
How cool, let's go over there. It's amazing to walk through these forests with someone like this, explaining things to me as we go. Everything needed to make a coffee, which many of us take for granted at home, but everything we're doing is necessary to create a coffee. So just imagine the comforts we have nowadays in the cities that we don't appreciate, sometimes how hard it really is, right? To get everything needed for something that has always brought us together, right? Like you were telling me before.
There's a lot of effort behind every little thing that we end up buying and take for granted just because we've already earned that money, right? We can pay and get what we want, but behind what you receive is a lot of effort and work. In this case, that coffee, and of course, the coffee itself, which comes from where it comes from, which goes through the process it does just so we can enjoy it. It's a miracle. I mean, I always think that if there's something out there that we can't see, right? That universal energy, whatever you want to call it, there are already enough arguments and wars that we don't need to fight over a word or a definition. It's like that thing you feel, that just is. For me, it's in cacao, it's in coffee, it's in water, it's in everything, it's just everywhere.
Even in the animals of this forest that we can't see right now, but they're there. Absolutely necessary for everything to work, for this whole ecosystem.
Just recently, I ran into a wild boar right over there, and I even shared it on social media because I almost ran right into it. I almost ran right into it. I was so distracted, but in the forest, you have to stay alert and present. That's something I really like. It forces you or really invites you to be present, to be watching what's happening, you know? Because if not, well, either a tree falls on you or a wild boar shows up. So for me, it's incredible. And now we have a task ahead of us. We have work to do. So
What is this?
this is the filter where part of the water from the stream is diverted and comes in through here. And there's a channel that was built back in the day, which leads to the tank we'll see later, and then moves the turbine that generates electricity. So what we have to do now is look, it's full of leaves.
Yes.
Because even though we're in summer, since the seasons are a bit strange, now it's in autumn mode. So it's just a matter of removing the leaves so it works better now.
So the water can flow in much better and generate more power for you, which is it gives me a lot of satisfaction to think that the energy that's already here, that we're hearing, which is the water, it's the very same energy that's going to provide for us now. We're going to transform it, something that's already here. We're going to turn it into another type of energy. That's why energy is neither created nor destroyed. It just transforms.
There it is.
And it's a bit of comfort for me to think that, well, my grandmother, my little dog, I know they're in everything that's surrounding me right now. I don't want to say much more because I'll get emotional, but honestly, I feel it more and more each time. Now, especially since my little dog is gone, it's wonderful that you bring me here. I really appreciate it because I know this exists, but it's not something I'm always aware of because I still have some comfort.
Of course, yes, I also feel that I have comfort. I mean, for me, there is comfort. The thing is, I have to work harder for it.
A little more.
But yes, it's incredible to see that the same water that's here is continuously generating energy. Just the fact of diverting it a little. You see there's an overflow here, and there's another overflow over there. So the excess energy isn't lost, it just goes straight back to the river and gives life to that river again. So it's like you just take the energy needed to fill the tank, and that's what's incredible. I love that, I swear it fills my heart. That water that falls, that moves the turbine, that water goes back to the river again, and that water will be here again.
Of course, we're constantly polluting to generate.
Which is very easy.
We're very disconnected.
The truth is that it's super easy.
I know.
It's just that because I live here, I see it every day, and I work to have my hot water and all that, right? But it's so obvious. It's so clear. It's so obvious that those are the things that make me work hard not to get angry. Because, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is, are we stupid or what? Are we stupid?
We should be more grateful and pay much more attention.
Of course, learn from existing knowledge since this has been studied for years. The turbine that's generating the electricity, it's been here for 40 years, almost 40 years. And even today, Iberdrola calls me to see if I want to get electricity installed. Well, Mr. Iberdrola. Look, here it is. This is the tank where the water arrives. The water we managed to get flowing by removing the leaves with the filter. It's channeled and comes here. Then this fills up. That flag tells me it's full of water.
That's great.
Yeah, so it overflows when it's full and goes through a pipe that's around here. It goes down, 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 down by gravity, all from energies that have always been there forever.
It's impressive.
It feels like magic, yet they're real. And it moves a small turbine. It's like windmills that are ultimately powered by the wind itself. Well, it's the same, some blades that spin, spin, spin because of the falling water. And that translates into electricity thanks to a human who invented a device that transformed that movement into another form of energy, which in this case is electricity that powers that beautiful house over there.
That beautiful house over there is where we'll make coffee. But first, let's talk about food and everything else. What do you think? Sure, let's do that.
Of course.
Let's go to the garden and you explain it.
I'll show you the ghost garden.
Come on, let's go over there. Ion, to move around these places, do you always take the same paths or how do you get around? Because, well, I came here with a camper van, not with the Hilux, and even so, this is a reserve. Not just any vehicle can come in here. I imagine you get around in a good vehicle, right?
Yes, well, normally my vehicle is my own body, walking as much as possible. But if not, well,
You have a real gem
with the beast.
with a Land Rover like these. Oh my, they're tough. One of these Santana ones.
And here you need a vehicle that's really tough, because sometimes you have to cross a river or pull a log.
And sometimes it's for transporting things. I imagine there are things you need to buy.
Of course, I mainly use it to bring things, since I often cook with a gas stove, the butane cylinders to bring food for the animals, and also to bring my own food. Because even though I had a lot of time, I used to make my own food. Well, I did it. I worked so that my food would grow on my land. Well, now I do a lot of shopping too. I buy my food because a lot of people think that just because I'm here, well, that's it.
That it's essential.
In a cave and you feed off the sun. And hey, look, if one day it comes to that, well, wonderful. But for now, I really like a chocolate bar. I love it. So when I do a big shopping trip, I try to do it when I take the opportunity to go to the village, to the city. I take the cart, load it up, bring it back, and store everything in the fridge since there's electricity.
That's another advantage.
Let's go see the garden.
Come on, I'm really looking forward to it because I imagine, well, right now you don't have anything, but I want to see the area where you have it. I imagine it was a well-studied area so that it gets the most sunlight during the day, right?
Yes, well, it was. A lot of things come together here, right? In permaculture, for example, it's basically about learning from nature. Well, to set up your garden, your house, and so on, they tell you that the first thing is to observe. So, of course, what I can observe about this land now is not the same as when this was done, right? No, because before there was much more here, so this is the area where I usually have the garden, but now there's nothing but,
Yes, weeds, well,
herbs.
I've heard unwanted herbs aren't so bad and serve a purpose.
Everything has its function.
Of course, people see weeds here, but nettle is actually very good. You can do a lot of things,
Nettle is a gift from nature.
and many times we cut them and don't even use them. But anyway, I just wanted to clarify that point without going too deep into it. But they all have something to offer. The thing is that
Everything has its function, but the thing is that we're stubborn about having a goal, which is to produce on this land, and anything that doesn't contribute to production seems bad, right? We even call the herbs that we don't want weeds, as if there's something bad. But the only bad thing here is our own ambition. I think we go too far, and we don't realize how wonderful it is. Like that. A nettle or the country. In this case, the sorrel that grows there is giving structure to the soil. Incredible.
it's this right here, isn't it?
Yes.
This right here, yes, it's also in Asturias.
We don't like it here, since it feels like it's from the garden.
Yes, Masora, he says.
When you stop planting, it grows right away, doesn't it? And in my case, this year, well, also because of a bit of a lack of time, since I've been really pushing my projects, and also because of a hunch, I haven't planted a garden. And honestly, it's one of those things where you say, wow, I'm glad I listened to the moment, glad I trusted my intuition, because right now you see sun, but here there was no sun, I don't know which.
The weather has been really bad. And well, it's also clear that there are times when you can plant and it works out, and other times when it doesn't work out as well. So, what do you usually plant?
I've even planted tomatoes because the soil is getting drier and drier. And just like before, it used to be impossible here because of the fungus that comes from the humidity. For about 3 years now, ever since I started coming here more often, there's been a lot of dryness, so we've been able to plant everything. But here, I mostly plant all the greens, like lettuce and cabbage, broad beans, carrots, also beets, everything. I mean, actually, everything I can buy in terms of vegetables, since I basically live off vegetables or mostly vegetables, I used to plant here. This year, I just wasn't feeling it. About a week ago, my neighbor told me, man, you did the right thing. You have no idea about the problems I'm having, the losses I'm dealing with. He says nothing has come out, only what's from the greenhouse.
I'm looking at this crown jewel. Do you still use it?
This contraption is kind of Meal's scratching post right now. Look, it just arrived.
Wow, and this one?
That wonderful creature. A pony that basically comes here to scratch its butt.
Yeah, she's so pretty. And this pony, did you already have her, or did you rescue her, or...
Yes, I adopted this pony. She was going to be put down. Because as she got older, she stopped producing, wasn't cute, and didn't look nice anymore. And someone found out, so they took her to their land, but it was a very small piece of land. They kept her and her companion there, but her companion has already passed away. And they came here, and here they are.
They lived, at least. She lived very happily here for the time she had left.
She lived happily, as all free beings should, joyful and at peace.
Where have you brought me, man?
Well, I've brought you to the community pool to have some coffee.
Mother of God, look, he made me a little coffee. With that good energy we've brought from these waters, the water too, because the water belongs here. And look at the place where we're going to have coffee. I imagine this is your beach, right? Your pool, this is your swimming hole.
Yes, and besides, nobody comes here, so this is my space. And it's my daily gift, especially when things get a bit tough. At first, when I had so much work to do to fix up the place, I would come here, breathe this in and say, that's it, it's worth it.
And I'm telling you, it's worth it. If only I could find something in Asturias, because now the prices are skyrocketing, but you can't imagine how much they've gone up. And I'm working on it. The thing is, guys, I can't find a house where they don't ask for a ridiculous amount. That has its own Horio, you know, so I can do some restoration work, share it with you all, even over time. I'd like that. I'll share more about that later. I don't want to talk too much now, but I'm planning something really cool that many of you will enjoy. But for that, the crown jewel has to show up. Like this, guys, as you can see. You come here with the dogs, my goodness, what a show. Well, I'm going to end the video here. I'm going to share your socials so people can check them out so they can see everything you do. So, briefly describe everything you do again for those who might not have understood.
Yes, mainly I focus on supporting people through their therapeutic processes. I have online courses on meditation, yoga, and some other things as well. If anyone is a little interested, they should check it out, take a look, and I also organize retreats here at home. People who come here want to have this experience and at the same time do their own personal work, right? To get to know themselves a little above all, because life is about getting to know yourself in a light-hearted way. You don't have to get too dramatic or too coachy. Life is what it is.
And start little by little and accept that it is what it is.
And life is what it is. And here, the teacher is what we have around us, which is the landscape, the river, nature, and everything that happens. So, I also spend some of my time hosting people who want to experience this, and a little bit on social media. I share a bit of my daily life.
Well, look, I honestly recommend it 100%. You know, I don't recommend just anything. We're going to stay here, having and enjoying our coffee, and I hope that, as always, you've enjoyed the video. I'm also going to share my socials in case you want to stay a bit more up to date with the content I don't upload here on YouTube, and that's it. See you in the next video.